Hello, today I'm going to show you how to clean a carburetor out on a Honda Snowblower without having to remove it. I call it an in-frame cleaning, and you can do this for basic maintenance, or if you have a machine that's hard to start and you've already determined that it has good spark, or you change the spark plug, and you've already checked the choke adjustment, which I showed everybody in a previous video. Uh, in your engine, maybe it's not running good at idle. It's going like that. It means that it's hunting for fuel. It's looking for fuel, so you might have a minor clog in there. So most of the times you can clean out the carburetor while it's in frame. Uh, I take it off in more serious cases, after I've cleaned it in frame and it's still hard to start, or it's not getting fuel, or it's surging, and I have to remove the main jet and the emulsion tube, which is a more complicated, a little bit more complicated. But anyways, I'm going to show you really quick how to do this. I've got the machine up on its nose. I already took the top plate off, which I've showed in a previous video. And this is called the elbow. So I take this off. Two 10mm nuts. I already ran it dry. When it was on the ground, I started it up. I shut off the fuel and ran it until it stalled out. So now with the gas off, you could just pull this right off like that. And as I showed in the choke video on adjusting the choke, this choke is pretty much where it should be. And I already checked it to make sure it shuts when it's in the choke position. And then when it's in fast throttle, it comes out here. So anyways, first thing I do is this your sediment cup. You want to remove that. It's a 10mm. It's not a bolt or anything. It's part of the cup. I'm going to remove that. This is where a lot of your dirt goes into from the carb. I don't know if you can see it. Showing it, yeah. There's a little bit of dirt in there. So I'm going to use some carb cleaner. You can use gum out, carb, and choke cleaner, parts cleaner. You can pretty much use any kind of carb cleaner. They're all pretty much the same. Well, maybe I'll get some flack on that, but so I clean that out. Sometimes you get a little tool, a little small screwdriver, and clean out all the muck, uh, or to get it all out, and then you spray it. And then what I do is I put the gas back on, because there's a hole in here that you can. Well, I'm going to take this off first, okay? And if you need carburetor parts, you can get a carburetor gasket kit from Honda. And this has almost everything that you need for your carburetor. Here's the bowl O-ring right here. This is your sediment cup, the smaller O-ring. That's your sediment cup O-ring. If it's leaking, if you got a leak and you can determine that it's leaking from the sediment cup, what I usually do is I tighten it a little bit, see if that stops the leak, and if it doesn't, then you can put one of these O-rings in there. And then you've got another, this red, it's not an O-ring, it's a gasket for your drain plug. If you determine that your gas is leaking from your drain plug, There's a little gasket there that goes on the bolt, and you can replace that too. And then this thing here, right here with the four holes, that's for your shut-off valve. Over here, you have to take the top off. If it's leaking from there, then this has to be replaced. And then this little tiny O-ring right there, it's a 1 millimeter by 4 millimeter O-ring. That's for your idle jet, which I'll show you in a minute. All right, next thing you do, here's your drain on your. This is your bowl, carburetor bowl. This is your drain. If you wanted to drain the fuel out, this is the mounting bolt. Oh, Jesus. Probably hasn't been off in 20 years. So take that off. This also has a little washer, rubber. It's not rubber. It's a little cloth like red washer. If it's leaking from this bolt, then you change that too. Now you take your bowl off, and I'll give it a couple little taps. See, it comes right off. A little bit of tap. Even though I ran it dry, there's still fuel in there, as you can see. And that bowl is pretty clean, actually. A lot of times I see sediment on the bottom. There's a little bit of dirt. Well, and then I spray it with, you can see a little bit of dirt in there. So I'll spray it out with make sure you wear eye protection, okay? So you got a little bit of, and your O-ring is stuck. Usually it's the O-ring is inside the carb body right there. It's stuck on here, so I could change that if I want to. It's not leaking, so I might just put it back on. But if it's leaking, then you want to change that O-ring. Then you remove your float. This is your float. This is what shuts off the gas when the gas level builds up. It the float comes up and shuts off the gas. So I'm going to remove that too. You got a little pin here. Can you see that? A little pin. So I pull the pin out and then it comes right out. Okay. And you want to inspect this little rubber needle here. And see how I don't know if you can see it, folks. It's got a nice point to it, which is good. If it was corroded or it looked sketchy, then this part can be replaced. And you also want to make sure there's no gas in the float. I've only seen it a couple times in the last 7 years. You can, if you could shake it, you can. If you feel anything in there, then you got to replace the float. But I've only seen that a couple times. Usually, these Honda carbs are really good. So you take that out. This is called your pickup tube, and this is where your needle valve goes into. Now I'm going to take out this screw here. This holds your idle jet in. Well, they call it the idle circuit, idle jet. It's a pesky little problem a lot of times. If you've got a carburetor that's surging, it's usually because this little jet may be a little bit clogged. Take that out. You got to use a screwdriver very gently. You want to pry this jet out. It's kind of hard to see. I got the bad angle here. But you put the screwdriver there. Let's see if I can get this. Come on. You don't want to use too much force. You don't want to damage this. This little sucker is about 17 bucks. This is your it's a jet. You got your main jet that's up here. This little sucker causes a lot of problems if it's clogged. It's got a little O-ring. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little O-ring at the end here. And it kind of, yeah, it does look damaged to me. So I'm going to change that. It's in the kit that I just showed you. It's 1 millimeter by 4 millimeter. I buy 10 at a time from eBay from a racing outfit. But they come in the kit. Yeah, I'm going to change that. I don't know if you can see it's kind of flat right there. This engine starts okay. It doesn't surge, but down the road I might have some problems with it. So I'm going to change this little O-ring. And you want to make sure that it's not clogged. So what I'm going to do, I put the straw in the end here. So you got holes on the side here. If it's not clogged, the carb spray will come out the holes. Now, if it doesn't come out very good, then you got to get a little wire or something and clean out your jet here. A lot of the times you put the straw in there and the force of the spray will clean it out. Let's see what happens here. Make sure it's not towards your face. Can you see it coming out pretty good? So that's clean. That's fairly clean. I don't see any problem with it. If it wasn't coming out, if it was dribbling out of these holes, then you got to get a small wire. You don't want to enlarge it. You don't want to use an oversized wire. I use a carb cleaning wires that are especially made for this to ream it out a little, not ream it, but just to put it in there, work it around to clean the dirt out there, and then I spray some more carb cleaner in it. Okay. So I'm going to change this little O-ring. Now what you can do, everything's out. Where that little idle jet goes, there's a little hole in there. So I can put the straw in there and spray. You see it coming out? You see? So I'm cleaning that circuit. And then I can also do it this way too. I can put it in this hole. Can you see it coming out? It's cleaning that whole circuit. And then there's a little hole here in the pickup tube. You make sure that's clean. You can put your straw up to the main jet. And you can see the spray coming out of the emulsion tube up here. Yeah, be pretty liberal with the spray. I spray it pretty good. And then you got another hole here. It's coming out where the idle jet goes. This hole, I don't know where it goes. It doesn't seem to go anywhere. Oh, and don't forget to spray up your where your needle goes. Your needle from your float. Excuse me. If you get a piece of dirt, just a tiny piece of dirt up there, and then this needle valve, the black needle valve there won't seat properly, and then you'll have a small leak, and it will overflow your carburetor, and and you could flood out your engine. So that's why I do that. So that, you spray all around, get all the dirt. This is an adjustment that I don't. It's usually set. This adjustment screw here. It's usually set in the factory. I don't mess with that unless I absolutely have to. That's your throttle. Your throttle plates back here. Sometimes they may need a little lubrication. That's your. This is your choke plate, and that's pretty much how you do it. And then you put your uh, float back in. Come on. Okay. You got to line up the hole like that. Oh, I forgot one thing. There's a hole in here too. So you can put your straw up the hole and spray in there too. And you put the gas on so the spray will work throughout the circuit. The circuit is the passageways. And if it's leaking, it's hard to show, but there's an O-ring in here. If it leaks, I usually tighten it up a little bit. If that don't work, then I just replace it with this O-ring that I showed you a minute ago. Here's your little sediment, your sediment bowl O-ring. Okay, it comes in the kit. And here's your little, I don't know if you can see it, the little 1 millimeter by 4 millimeter O-ring that I'm going to put on the idle circuit jet. So once I've done that, I put a little bit of lubrication. Oh yeah, just let's assume that I put this in here, okay? The new O-ring. Put a little bit of lubrication on this, so it's easy to push back in. So you push it back in until it clicks down, okay? It'll click in, and then you can put this part on top of it, and then you can put your screw back in. I'm not going to take all the time doing it because the video would be. Usually this takes me about 15 or 20 minutes. First time you do it, it probably take you, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour. But once you've done it a couple times, it becomes easier and easier. So after that, you put your bowl back on. This is a straight cover bowl. Some bowls have an indent where it lines up with the float, so you want to make sure that it lines up correctly. I wish this bowl had that so I could show you. It's got some kind of indent where it lines up with the bowl. I mean the float. So you put that back on. Put your mountain bolt back in. Make sure it's in there right. You should be able to move it a little bit, and then tighten your bolt down. And then you've got this all together, and then let's say you got it all together, and then you can you have to shut off your gas. Oh, another thing you want to do, you want to determine that there's gas flow. So you do that on the ground. You take your bowl off, and you got your gas off. You turn your gas on, and with the bowl off, the gas should flow freely. Because the float is like this. So you want to make sure that you've got gas flow that's filling up your carburetor. Now, if you don't, then you've got a clog somewhere. It could be in the fuel line. It could be. It doesn't happen very often. It's only on hard cases where the machine hasn't been used for a bunch of years or whatever, and you can't and it's not flowing. If the fuel's not flowing out of here freely, then it could be a clog in the fuel line. It could be a clogged fuel filter. Make sure there's gas in the tank, of course. But that's a whole another story that I'll have to address on another topic. But once you've done this, it only took me what, 10 minutes, do all this. You take off the top plate. Once you put the bowl back on, then you can put your let's see what I'm doing here. I gotta shut off the gas. That's why it wasn't going on. Okay. Okay. So now you get your elbow back on. You can put your nuts back on. Okay. And after everything's buttoned up, then you can put it back on the ground and try it out and see if it helped. So that's how you do an in-frame carb cleaning on a Honda snowblower without having to remove it. And like I said, in some cases, this in-frame carb cleaning doesn't work very well, but most of the time it does. And if it doesn't, then you may have to take the carburetor off and take your main jet out. You need a special screwdriver. Well, not really. I just took this old screwdriver and ground down the sides so they're nice and straight. And you want to make sure that this is the same width as your main jet, because your main jet's brass. So if you screw up your main jet, if you screw up the slot in your main jet, it's very easy to do. And if you do that, then you're in a lot of trouble. So this screwdriver I made specifically to take out the main jet. So it's in the slot now, and then I'll and in more comp and some cases I have to take the main jet out. But usually just putting your straw in up into the main jet hole will clean it out with the carb cleaner. And you can also use compressed air. Um, Sometimes I do everything with the carb cleaner, and then you can if you have a what do you call it, an air compressor, you can clean it out with air. Before I had the air compressor, I used to use that stuff that's from Costco that you clean your computer keyboards with. The compressed air in the can. You can use that too. I use that quite a bit. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I may do a more complicated carb cleaning with removing it and dismantling it, and show you how to do that. But most of the carburetor cleaning videos on YouTube show you how to do that stuff. I don't think there's any on YouTube that shows you how to do it the way I did it, which works most of the time. I mean, if for basic maintenance or some slight cleaning, this will work. So good luck, folks. Let me know how it goes, and thanks for watching.